Yeah, I'm back for more, I guess. Yeah, just me doing the standard format video thing. And as if right on cue, here comes Trish, who's no doubt going to join me in the moment. But in the meantime, I would like to talk a little bit. So, I've had the misfortune of getting inside my own head again over the last couple of days. And I think I just need to talk it out and just get this shit out into the open again and hopefully find some nice way to get through it all and have hope for a better future. But the more I hear, the more I dread my future. And gotta be honest, I don't have a lot of faith that things are going to go well in the next couple of years. And I think right now what I'm looking for is just some reasonable expectation that things won't go as I fear. What I'm speaking of specifically is the ongoing Republican push to ban, outlaw, restrict, and eventually to criminalize the act of being transgender. Obviously, if and when that happens, that's going to put me in a really tough spot. I mean, I'm essentially halfway through my transition right now. And then right now, I'm just in the middle of a waiting game with my provider to move up the waiting list to get my gender confirming surgery. Yeah, speaking of that, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but I did decide that I'm going to forego the top surgery altogether because at this point I don't think I'm going to need it. Would you stop? God. So, with the developments that I've had over the last 2.5 years, I think I've reached the point where I'm almost where I need to be as far as my breast development goes. And I think adding anything through surgical means would just be overkill. So I'm going to trust that the hormones will take care of the rest. And I'll spare myself that expense, that pain, all the inconvenience of recovery and getting getting down and back to Rochester multiple times between now and then. So I'll just be content with what I hopefully will have soon and not have to worry about the operating room on that account anyway. As far as the bottom surgery goes, well, that's a 1.5 year wait. And if you do the math, that puts us after the inauguration of the next president and the swearing in of the next Congress. And given everything that I keep hearing from the Republican side of the aisle, they are hell-bent on making sure that transgender people are all but forbidden from continuing to receive the care that we are currently getting. Doesn't matter if it's going to be kids or adults. It's the understanding I have is that a lot of these candidates are in favor of an outright federal ban for all ages. And the fact that so many of them are in favor of this is what really has me freaked out. I mean, I'd be looking at being criminalized just for existing as I am. I want to be wrong on this. I really do. But, when I keep seeing politician after politician after politician saying that they are in favor of banning all gender affirming care for not just minors, but adults too. I mean, that scares the shit out of me. I'm just saying nothing of what it would do to my health, both mental and physical. I know what they would do would be the same as some of these southern states have done, southern and western states have done over the past, over the course of this year, where they've set a deadline and say that you cannot prescribe HRT after this date to patients of a certain age, and they don't really consider what happens when you just abruptly cut off that supply. It does have negative effects on the person's health, because there does need to be a sex hormone, whether it be testosterone or estrogen. Otherwise, you do wind up with negative health effects. And I want to say things like osteoporosis winds up being quite common. Beyond that, I would have to look it up, but I just know that there's a lot of risk involved if you stop cold turkey like that. But anyway, so I've just been thinking about that a lot these last few days. And maybe it winds up being nothing. Maybe the most hardline Republicans get soundly defeated, and this whole thing finally goes away. But I don't think it's going to happen that way. I mean, it scares the hell out of me that in a couple of years from now, maybe even 2 years from now, I could wind up being illegal just for being. Unless I take a drastic step of detransitioning and going back to pretending to be this average, everyday guy who was absolutely miserable for the first 3.5 decades of my life. But, they don't care. Stop going after my fucking glasses, god damn. Seriously, leave that shit alone. Fuck. Yeah, I'm a little on edge right now. But, seriously, what, as I'm looking ahead on all this, I panic. I don't know what I can, realistically do, if or when this happens, because the alternative to me, being my authentic self is to go back to being this, for lack of a better term, just a ticking time bomb of misery. Because that's what I was when I was presenting as a male. living full time as Matt, and he was fucking miserable. And I'm sure I mentioned this before, but the gender dysphoria when I was living that way was so bad that it split my mind in two. I wound up taking on dual personas that were constantly at war with each other because the one side wanted out and the other side kept repressing it. And there was a ton of animosity between the two sides because of it. I mean, on the one side there was Matt, the average everyday guy who did all the responsible shit, paid the bills, went to work, did the shopping, the family obligations, blah blah blah. And on the other side there was Selena, who desperately needed to come out, but she was confined to these four walls and be just sharing herself online. Yeah, she was frustrated. She was pissed more often than not because she was confined. And why was she confined? Because Matt wasn't ready to let her out and be seen by the world. And if they want to start, forcing detransition and outlawing gender affirming care for adults, I'm gonna go back to that. I'm going to be, this fucking miserable. And this really went on for a few months the last time before I started on my transition, my medical journey, my HRT, and that solved the issue. The two halves of a person became just a single person, the person that I am now. Now, what happens if I go off of HRT and am just dumped off into the middle of the street, so to speak? Then what happens? It's going to be 10 times worse. I'm guessing here I may very well wind up with a full-blown split personality because of it. I mean, I was well on my way to doing it before. Or, you never know. I may find myself so depressed that I do wind up eating the barrel of a gun, just taking care of all of it in one shot. Unfortunately, with me, it's hard to say because I have had suicidal ideations before, and back then I didn't have access to a gun. I've been so much better these last couple of years since I started on HRT. But what happens when all of that goes away, when my entire world is taken away, goes crashing down, and I'm left trying to pick up the pieces of it, because some assholes in Washington D.C. decide that I shouldn't have access to the things I need. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you earlier, but you really gotta stop going after my glasses. I need them. And I need the hair tie too, okay? Yeah. Kind of wish that she was in frame so you could see if I was scratching her chin. Yeah. But so might be talking in circles here. I don't know at this point, but I want to do something, but I'm no good with public speaking, and I don't debate well online either. I feel completely stuck, powerless to do anything to help, to help my cause, to help the trans population and the wider LGBTQ plus community as a whole, because I just I lack that ability to argue with people and convince them to see things in a different light, especially if they've got their hearts set on following the Orange Man or one of his cronies or whatever the fuck is going on in the so-called GOP, the GQP, whatever the fuck it's called. But I just don't know where to start, where to go, what I can do at this point. I don't have a voice, really. I could scream and scream and scream here. I could do it on my social media. I could do it. I could do it where I'm established, and no one's gonna pay attention. No one's gonna listen. The few people that would actually take notice, they already had my back to begin with, but they're not going to go out of their way to rally others to the cause, because it doesn't affect them directly. So at the end of it all, I just feel like I'm one person fighting this uphill battle against against a tsunami wave. I don't know if you know how that feels to be so outnumbered, outgunned in every way, shape, and form. If I knew where I could turn, and if I had someone with a strong voice, and I mean that both from a literal sense and from an influence standpoint, someone who would be willing to speak on our behalf. I don't know which is grammatically correct. And try to win over the hearts of the people on the other side, so they could see that we're just human beings merely trying to live our lives. I don't understand how that's a threat. Why that needs to be outlawed, why that needs to be regulated, and legislated out of existence. And maybe I am overreacting to a possible future that may never happen, but the fact that it is a possibility at this point, it scares the shit out of me. I mean, hell, you look at Tennessee, I think is the state right now, one of many actually, where they're working to outlaw drag shows in places where quote children can see. Okay, which, if we're talking about the risque, explicit kind of performances, okay, yeah, totally understand that, totally totally get it. But if you look at the language of so many of these bills and these laws that they're working on getting into the books, and you know, a lot of these are currently being blocked pending pending legal challenges, such as in Tennessee. But a lot of them have language that identifies, quote, male or female impersonators as, as targets, and people that could be considered in violation of the law. Well, okay, that would mean that someone like me, who had the misfortune of being born male, but is now presenting as female, I could then be arrested just for existing out in public. And yeah, they added some language about conduct that would be considered objectionable to an average person. Okay, well, so what happens if I'm out and about and I notice, oh, my shoe's untied. So I bend over to tie my shoe. Okay, now does that wind up being considered a lewd act because, well, they don't want to see a tranny bend over, and just these interpretations of the law may seem outlandish, but I don't put it past them to twist them and skew them in such a way that could happen. This is what I'm afraid of at this point. Now we skip ahead a year and a half to the presidential and the congressional elections, and it goes beyond just simple states doing this individually. What happens when this winds up being a federal thing? And suddenly here I am in Wisconsin, which has been historically I wouldn't say a great state for our rights, but they're not going out of their way to oppress us yet. I mean, I know certain parties on the right are trying to push through things right now, but we got someone in the Capitol building that can at least keep that shit in check for the time being. But what happens when the state level protections are eroded, and then it leaves the floodgates wide open for the federals to jump in and say, all right, so we have a nationwide ban on drag, which means that all male or female impersonators are to be subjected to imprisonment for presenting as the wrong gender. To say nothing about the access to our things like our hormones and other associated health care that goes along with transitioning medically. I do see it happening where it's just going to be day one, they're going to start trying to push through all this shit. And if the Republicans have the majority in both houses of Congress and the presidency, there's no stopping it. I will become illegal. Now, tell me I'm going to be wrong. I would love to be proven wrong on this. I really would. I would like for cooler heads to prevail and allow us in the trans community to keep on keeping on, because that's been my goal all along. For something like that to happen, I would have to have adequate support from the outside, from people who themselves aren't part of the trans or the wider LGBTQ plus community, and I really don't see it happening because most people don't even give us a second thought if we're being targeted or not. So that's where I'm at right now. Just been thinking about that a lot the last couple of days. I want to be wrong. I really, really want to be wrong in all this. Or at the very least, I want to be able to beat out the waiting list and get the surgery done before the dismantling of the entire system takes place. Because given my current timeline, it's going to be close. I'll be looking at anywhere from March to May of 2025. And with the presidential thing happening at the end of January, that's best case scenario, a month and a half gap there. A lot of damage can be done in that short amount of time. So anyway, this was the whole point of today's video. I just wanted to rant and vent a little bit because I don't know where else I can go with this at this point. I feel like I'm on this this railroad track that's just barreling toward destruction and the end of me because we have nefarious individuals gunning for positions of power with no one worthy to stop them, and a general populace that just either doesn't care or is empowering these people to just go ahead and obliterate us because we're the popular scapegoat of the day because reasons. So I don't know. Maybe I am wrong. I want to be wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Give me a reason that I'm wrong. Just I want some hope to hold on to, but I can't find any. So anyway, this is me ending this otherwise pointless video. So hope you all have a good day. I will be back later on, sometime probably later this week, with something else to babble on about for no good reason. Bye for now.